Hi guys, thank you so much for joining me today on Sigma Sunday. So, who has ever felt stressed? Anybody? Yeah, like duh. Literally, who is it, right? And especially probably a little bit more even now than maybe 6 weeks ago. So, my name is Rebecca Sonnenberg. I am a licensed clinical social worker, and I am here to talk to you about some ideas to help you be a better business owner, entrepreneur, and leader. And one of the big things I wanted to talk about was stress. I know, especially probably in the last few weeks, things have upticked a little on the stress department, and that's understandable. But as a business owner, how do we allow stress to be something that maybe motivates us or gets us moving rather than something that completely derails us? This has not always been an easy one for me. I have a tendency to overfill my plate. Shocker, I know. Yes, I'm admitting it. It's like I'm in, overloading AA over here. But I think one of the big things I've had to learn when it comes to stress is to honestly take an account of like, how much of this have I created and where can I turn this into being productive rather than allowing it to completely throw me off my entire ship right off the edge. And it's taken some time. It's taken some practice. I am not great at it all the time. Maybe the first to admit this. So what do I think that might be a little bit helpful? I think one of the things that I really have to focus on, and I would probably stress to everybody, is how do you take what feels stressful and can you break it into smaller pieces, right? So let's say, for example, you have these 15 things that you need to get done for your business to run successfully. Can you write down those 15 things and can you just start with the first one? For people who are neurodivergent, this is also really beneficial because what happens is that when you have so many things, you tend to shut down and then you just won't do anything. I have a tendency to use stress as productivity at the very last minute. I'm really great about getting things done in the very last second very well. Would I recommend that for everybody? No. If that's your superpower, I'm not going to poo-poo on it because it is mine. I have always been really, really good at taking last minute projects and turning them into really great things. I'm trying to think if I've ever had it really bite me in the ass, and I don't know that I have, so I don't know if that's why I've never not done it that way. But I have learned that for some things, that works, but there are times where it really doesn't, and I do have to prepare a little bit more. So I like to write down the things that I know, I've got to get this presentation done so I can at least get a skeleton of what 100 slides are going to look like in my PowerPoint. Can I just work on 10 today? And then, when the breeze hits me right and 2 or 3 days later, can I work on 10 more until I get down to the final wire where I'm shoving it all together very quickly? Because like I said, for me, that's how stress becomes productive, but that's also because I'm very neurodivergent. That isn't going to work for everybody. The other suggestion that I would say is where do you look at this and say, how much of this do I need to do? How much of this do I have to do? And how much of this can I have somebody help me to do? When you are a business owner, especially a small business owner, sometimes it's really hard, especially in the beginning, to have anybody there that can help you do these things. And so sometimes you can't offload. Sometimes you can't say, hey, can team A take this, because you are team A and that's all there is. There is no team B. So, okay, if there isn't anybody else, then how much of this do I need to do versus I have to do? Need means I could probably wait a day or two and the world isn't going to end. Have to means I'm going to have to buckle up and I'm going to have to sit down and I'm going to have to focus. Again, depending on the type of learner you are, the type of worker you are, you may do better if you're in a setting where nobody's bothering you. Some people like a little bit more noise and chaos to get things done, and that's going to be dependent on you and how you operate. I have to, if I'm hyper-focused on something, that quiet time for me is really important. Noise makes me crazy. If you're like my son, his productivity comes best when he has what's called an anchor. So somebody with him who's kind of keeping him accountable so that when he goes off track a little bit, there's somebody to say, hey, I hear you, but let's get back on track. So you just have to kind of figure out where you are on just the spectrum of how you learn and just who you are as a worker bee. But I think the most important thing that I want to make sure I kind of leave you with is that if the stress gets so bad that it's shutting you down, it's not productive and there's nothing you're going to be able to do, and you're going to have to step away and take a break. You're going to have to. And I know sometimes that doesn't sound like it's doable, but continuing to just let it stress you out, I promise you, will make it worse and make you so much less productive that it won't matter. You could just not do it and it would probably be the same thing. So there's going to have to be a point in your brain and in your body and your mind where you say, okay, I'm not getting anywhere. I don't have anybody who can help me with this right now. But if I don't step away from this for like 10 minutes and go get a snack or just take a walk, get a little bit of dopamine, whatever that looks like, this is never going to get done. And so we're going to get nowhere. Allowing yourself these little tiny things are more beneficial than I think people realize. So really look at what can you do in this moment. If you put it off to the very last second, and maybe that's not your wheelhouse and maybe that doesn't work very well for you, well, you're gonna have to lean into it, and hopefully you will remind yourself, hey, that's actually not something I'm good at. I'm not good at putting things off. If I do that again, it's gonna be a disaster. So how do I better time manage? By sitting down and putting things in my calendar to remind me, girl, you gotta get this done today, not in 4 days, okay? And where do you start to look at? Who can help me with this? Who can offload some of this for me? If nobody can, what do I need to do right now? Or what can I do in 2 days versus what has to get done in the next 10, 15, 20 minutes, whatever that looks like. And really starting to balance that. And like I said, using that productivity in your stress also means managing where you're at, sleep-wise, food-wise, time-wise, okay? You've got to take those things into consideration or it's going to be a disaster. So please let me know if this helps. If you guys have any ideas or anything that you want to leave in the comments, please feel free to do so. Make sure you subscribe and like and share. And I hope that I get to hear from you guys because I always love the things you guys have to share. And hopefully this was helpful. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.